Hey you guys, Robin Miller here, and welcome to Craftsy Live. I was just grabbing some melted butter so we can get started on my overnight French toast. I'm so happy to have you all here. I'd love to see who is here. It's always fun for me to see where you're from, as I like to kind of turn this into a conversation more than like a cooking class. Hear where you're from, hear what you're making for the holidays. Maybe tell me how your Thanksgiving was last week. Mine was kind of chill, just my boys, some board games, and lots of turkey. So I'm excited now that it's December to get excited about the rest of the holidays. This is my favorite time of year. And I love having my family around and I love cooking for them. And the reason I'm doing this overnight French toast for this live class is because, as much as I love cooking for my family and my friends, I don't like being strapped to the stove while they're here. I'd rather be playing a board game. Ran out and did disc golf this past weekend. I'd like to be able to do that and not be stuck at the stove. So if you're like me, something like overnight French toast is your go-to. It's amazing because you prep everything. You'll see how we do it. You pop it in the refrigerator for 12 to 24 hours, and then you just pull it out and bake it when you're ready to serve. That way it's warm and wonderful and cozy and cinnamony and vanilla and all the wonderful things. So that's what we're going to do. I do have a message board. So if you want to ask me questions as I go through ingredient substitutions, something I'd say that talk fast that you missed, can you double it or triple it, like all the things that you want to ask, feel free to do that. A quick recap of who I am. If this is your first time joining me on a live with Craftsy, I've done a bunch of these throughout the year. I love doing them. I'm in my own kitchen, and I can join you, live. So it's like we're all together in the same kitchen. I also have many classes with Craftsy, everything from cook once, eat twice to healthy, satisfying meals. I have lots and lots and lots of classes already available for you to watch. And then in January, we're going to be filming more. And I love that too, because the crew comes here and we have a good time creating content for you all at home. So you have the downloaded recipe. If you don't, the link to get to it. You can download the recipe. You can follow along. You can make notes. And again, you can, and there's it just popped up. You can use the QR code. So you have the recipe and you can make notes alongside, and you can also ask me questions as you're going through, like I may prompt some questions that you wouldn't think to ask. So I see a note there. Sandy, hi there, Sandy. Greetings from Austria. I think that says Austria. That is fabulous. Let me just make sure I can read that. Oh yeah. I love Austria. I was there 3 Christmases ago, right after Christmas. I went with my son, both my sons, and then we went skiing. Holidays will be quiet affair for me. So yes, having a quiet, and Linda from Phoenix. Hi, Linda from Phoenix. I think that might be the Linda that's on Facebook. Might be that Linda. Anyway, I like quiet holidays. It's funny. Yesterday I went to a Pilates class, and somebody was saying she was so happy to be back in the routine of doing her classes. She teaches the classes because having all the people in and out and all the guests was not her favorite. So I'm a combination. I like the parties. I like the quiet. I like just hanging out with my boys doing board games. And we've got Robin. Hi from snowy Colorado. Oh, you have snow? I'm a little bit jealous. I love snow. We were supposed to get it yesterday. It ended up just being rain. Lots and lots and lots of rain. But maybe this Friday, I think on the East Coast, we are supposed to get snow and a polar vortex. That is what they say. Okay, so I'll start cooking. We can keep talking. I see Mada from Cairo. Wow, all over the place. I love it. Thanks for joining. I'm sorry if I say your names wrong because the screen is very small for my old lady eyes, but I'll do my best. So we'll start. Mostly I want to start, then I can slow down because I have warm butter in a skillet. I have an overhead camera this time, so we're going to make sure that you guys can see things. Let's get this out of the way. Yeah, we're fine. All right, so here I have 1 stick of butter. that I melted and it cooled a little, slightly, but it's still fully melted. And I've got a cup of brown sugar. So the reason I wanted to get right to this is because I want the brown sugar to melt in the butter. This is the bottom layer. So this overnight French toast is a 3-layer deal. You've got this like caramely butter brown sugar on the bottom layer. Then you've got the bread with the egg and the milk and the cream and all that as your main layer. And then there's a streusel topping. So it's 3 delicious ways to kind of jazz up regular French toast. And I don't know about you, but regular French toast is time consuming. You have to, batter, do all the individual slices of bread. Then you cook them in the pan. And I don't know, I mean, even if you have the world's biggest griddle, you still have to work in stages. So keeping them warm, like it just takes forever. Being able to serve French toast all at once to a crowd is my favorite. Okay, so this is my brown sugar mixture. And this goes into the bottom of a 9x13 pan. So let's move my eggs out of the way. Got everything all lined up so you can see. So this is your base layer, and this infuses the bread cubes with this like wonderful, sweet, buttery goodness. This is not a low-cal dish. I will tell you that right now. This is one of the ones that you take a nice walk after. So we're going to spread this out. It doesn't have to be perfect because it will melt again as it bakes, but you do want to at least cover the bottom. Let's see if we have anybody else. We've got Sandra. Hi from Melbourne. Wow, we've got a lot of the globe representing. I love it. Welcome, everyone. I think that's fantastic. I wonder how the weather is there. I have a sign that I put out this time of year saying, "Let it snow." I put it right out in front of my front door, wishful thinking. Having lived in Arizona for 18 years, I relish the snow. Okay, so we've got this bottom layer, and again, feel free to ask questions as I go along, and I'll try to think of things that you might forget to ask. Like, for example, the brown sugar. I used light brown sugar here, but you can use dark. Both work, so just use that. I mean, use whatever you have. You're going to need a lot of brown sugar for this. We put a tire cup here, and then we put a half a cup in the streusel. So you need a lot. Okay, so now for the bread layer. We've got Brian from Idaho. Oh, I missed Evanston. Hi there from Peoria, Arizona. Basically Phoenix. I know where Peoria is. I lived in Arizona I raised my kids in Arizona. So hi, Brian from Idaho. Bookkeeper watching from West Coast, Canada. Thanks for doing this. Love Vancouver. I'm not sure if that's where you are, but West Coast Canada is pretty fabulous too. I haven't been to Melbourne, but I have been to a lot of the places so far. And if not, it'll be on my bucket list. I do like to visit. So here's the bread. So here's a half of a French baguette. In this bowl, I have 1 whole baguette already cubed. So I cut you'll see how I cut it, but you need 1.5 loaves of French bread for this overnight French toast. So what you want to do, ideally, what I did, and which is why this is so easy to cut, is get it and let it sit out on the counter for a couple days, because day-old bread will absorb more of the creamy egg custard that gets poured over top. If you forget, or if you want to make this and you want to run out and get the bread today, just cut the bread into cubes as I'm doing, put it on a baking sheet and spread that out on a baking sheet and put it in a 300-degree oven for about 10 or 15 minutes to dry it out. So you want dry bread so that it absorbs all the yumminess. So I'll just get these cut. So you see, it was basically, I cut crosswise into 1-inch ovals, and then each one into 4 pieces. But it doesn't have to be exact. Uniform pieces is good, but you don't need to measure. Let's see who we've got. We've got hi from Wichita. Hello, Wichita. And Dawn, you can make basic French toast overnight by soaking everything and then baking in the oven. I like that too. Dawn, I've done that too. The overnight French toast with just like slices of bread. Yes, you're right. I see what you're saying. It does not have to be time consuming. I have done that. I love this because I like how it's the cubes of bread and how it just, you'll see, it bakes up really pretty and kind of like peaks and valleys. And this is also, remember, there's this brown sugar bottom layer and there's a streusel topping. So it's, it's like classy French toast, super elevated. Sarah, can I use gluten-free bread and will it hold up the same way? Yes, you can use gluten-free bread. I'm thinking about the kind of bread, like because the gluten-free bread I've seen would be, I've not seen like a French style, like a loaf. I've only seen the sliced, but yes, if you have loaves, or I have seen the like the baguette style. Yes, you can absolutely use gluten-free bread and it will hold up just fine. I'm doing a lot of gluten-free cooking these days, so I'm testing a lot of things. I'm loving the way gluten-free bread has evolved. It's come a long way. It tastes really good and it will hold up in a recipe like this. Okay, so you need like 10 to 12 cups of the cubed bread. So that will be about 1.5 baguettes. All right, now for the custard part. Do I have any other questions? We've got Evie from Minnesota. I think that says, yeah, I think that says Minnesota. Where do you have a few inches of fresh snow? You can use whole wheat bread. She said where they do have. So Minnesota has a few inches of snow and I am jealous. Yes, you can use whole wheat bread. Absolutely, you can use whole wheat bread. You can use a combination of sourdough and French bread if you want like a little bit of a tang. Absolutely a whole wheat baguette. I mean, I guess you could use sliced bread, but the trick is because this is overnight, look at these sizable chunks of bread. They really soak up a lot of the custard, the egg filling. So I would say if you're going to use sliced bread, let's just say, for example, like if the gluten-free bread, I would suggest cutting it into kind of bigger pieces so it doesn't turn to mush as it sits overnight. Did I catch up? We got everything? Yes, I think I caught up. All right, so here's what I'm going to do the eggs now. This is what 7 are in here. I'm going to add one more, and that's the way I like to crack my eggs because I don't like the little shells on the edge of the bowl. But you can, crack your eggs the way you like to. And I am using a bowl with a little lip here so I can pour it over the bread. But you can use any bowl, a large bowl though, because we have 8 eggs. Is this something people are thinking about doing for the holidays? Because I know that one of these is going in my freezer so that I don't have to worry about fussing with breakfast one morning when I have my boys home. All right, now I'm going to add 3/4 of a cup of granulated sugar. And I when I make this, I like adding the sugar. Like I like getting these two incorporated before I add the milk and the cream. That's just me. No more questions so far. I hope everybody had an awesome Thanksgiving. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, not everybody does. All right, I've got 2 cups of milk and I like whole milk. I mean, we're already using 2 sticks of butter in this. So it's not like this is going to be a diet food anyway. And whole milk just is richer. But if all you have is skim, it totally works. 2 cups of milk there. And Evie, can I bake my own bread and cut it thick? Absolutely bake your own bread. That's a great idea. Bake your own bread and let it dry out though, would be my suggestion. So you could bake your own bread, it may be so delicious because it's homemade, but I would bake the bread and let it dry out. If you don't have time to let it dry out, do what I said with the baguettes, cut it into cubes, put it in a 300-degree oven for about 10 minutes to let it dry out that way, because the moist bread won't absorb this custard that we're creating. I've got 1/2 cup of heavy cream. If you only have 1/2 and 1/2, that works. Okay. All right, now we need to add Because right now we just basically have an egg custard. We have eggs, lots of them, 8 of them, milk and cream and some sugar. So now we're going to add what's going to make it taste delicious. We're going to use an entire tablespoon of vanilla. I'm using Frontier Co-op. This is my new bottle. Hopefully I can open it. My hands are cold. I should have opened it before you got here. I like using organic and, companies that give back. So I may have to wet my hand. I may have to wet this towel. Guess another question pop up. Nope, I didn't. Did I miss anybody? We got the gluten-free down. I thought for sure I'd get the dairy question about substituting skim milk or 2% or and half and half. I'm going to grab this fancy gadget. Hold on. It's not that fancy, but I love it. Have you ever seen one of these? You can open anything with one of these. I hope it gets this small. Let's see if I can open my Frontier Co-op vanilla. Any questions while I'm trying to open my vanilla? This is a classic Robin situation where something goes wrong. Last time my camera kept falling down into the food, like falling. What happened the time before that? Something always happens. Hang on, we're gonna get a backup vanilla. Another one. I have lots of vanilla. I promise you that. Okay. Get my hand right. We're gonna do the cinnamon. We need a teaspoon of cinnamon. Very cinnamony. This is simply organic. Again, I told you I like using organic when possible. And good quality cinnamon, you can really tell the difference. Get that all blended in there. And we'll try this again. More questions? I guess it wouldn't be any fun if I got everything figured out. If I had everything open before. All right, back up vanilla. So you're just gonna use 1 tablespoon. That seems like a lot, but this overnight French toast serves 10 to 12 people, and it's really only the cinnamon and the vanilla that are the whole flavoring agents. So, and it's like classic French toast. I don't know if you put vanilla in your French toast batter, but I always do. Okay, so the custardy part is ready. Don't worry about the little flecks of cinnamon because they're not going to get fully incorporated. They're not going to fully dissolve because the milk was cold, the cream's cold. Okay, so now we start building. You take the bread and you put the first layer down. Let's do this. So when the recipe says 2 layers, I really just mean like coat the bottom and just make sure that you've covered the brown sugar and the butter mixture, and then you top with like a second layer. But it doesn't have to be 2 distinct layers. You just want that brown sugar butter mixture covered. We've got Sarah. Oh my gosh. She feels like her vanilla bottles always decide to glue. Thank you for understanding. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Well, if I were a professional, I would have had it already unscrewed, but I go through a lot of vanilla. So I just grabbed it, but that's so funny. I think I'd rather it be glued shut than have it arrive and feel like it was already open. But yeah, I'll get to it. I have so much. I have a huge stash of Frontier Co-op stuff and Simply Organic. So it's, I probably have one open, but I just thought it would look, Better to have all full things out here. And Sandy, can you use vanilla sugar and reduce the amount of granulated sugar? I'm not savvy with vanilla sugar. I don't know how much vanilla essence is. I'm not sure. That I don't know. I would say if you've done it before and you've swapped out, let's just say you could cut the sugar down anyway, regardless of your vanilla sugar. You could cut the granulated sugar down to a half a cup to even a third of a cup, because there's a brown sugar base, there's a brown sugar streusel. So you easily could. This is pretty sweet. So if you're whatever you've done in the past, I would go with that, because I don't know that I've used vanilla sugar enough to feel confident telling you how much to cut back the granulated. But I would say you can cut it back regardless. So if you're going to add vanilla sugar, definitely cut back to a half or a third a cup of the granulated. If that makes sense. Let's see if I've got all the. Yeah, I think we got everybody covered there. Okay, this is the fun part. Move my dishes out of the way. Now you'll see why I wanted to use a bowl with a lip, but you don't have to. I mean, I obviously it's not necessary, just to prevent spilling. So all you do is you pour this beautiful custard over the bread. It's so creamy. I also love that you don't need a mixer for this. I'm just trying to make sure it's even. The bread won't be covered. It still will be peeking out, but as it sits for 12 to 24 hours, it absorbs all the custard and gets super soft. It smells so good. I mean, I'm really getting the cinnamon and vanilla. You see, I'm just like, doesn't have to be perfect. Again, the bread's not going to be covered, but I still wanted to make sure like the pieces get wet. When I did the finished product yesterday, some that didn't get hit with the custard, I just flipped them over, so they would be covered. So you can do that. I'm going to do that again. And maybe, I missed a couple here and there. But again, you can see, I don't know if you can see from that angle, they're not fully submerged and they're not supposed to be. So don't worry about that. All right, we're going to set this aside and we're going to make the streusel. Let's see. We got the vanilla sugar question already, so we're good there. Okay, so in this bowl, wait, let me move the bowl so I can cut up some butter. So we're going to make a brown sugar butter streusel. And what you do is you keep that separate from the this part. This goes in the refrigerator 12 to 24 hours. The streusel goes separately, and I'll show you what I mean. And that way, I don't know if you've made streusel before, but when it goes into the oven cold, like a crumble, it melts. It melts into the French toast casserole and all things. Like if you're making an apple crisp or a crumble, you're familiar with the fact that you want the butter cold going on top, so it leaves a crunchy top. It doesn't melt. So I'm just going to cut this into super fine cubes. And I don't have a pastry cutter. I mean, on purpose. I just never found a need for it. So I use either 2 knives or a fork or my hands if the butter is super cold. I may have a question there. We have, Mel, can I make less sweet or more savory variation? I love that idea. Absolutely. I would cut out. Well, there's a whole bunch of different ways you can make it less sweet. So there's the bottom layer you can eliminate, the brown sugar butter layer. Also, that would eliminate a stick of butter. You could eliminate the streusel. I've made it without it. I love it. It just makes it like more decadent. Obviously, you could leave that out. You could add some nuts. So on top, either add to the streusel or replace the streusel with chopped walnuts or pecans. That would make a little bit more of a savory element. You could add, I'm trying to think what else would make it savory, but you could definitely throw in some, it would make it sweeter, but you could add some raisins or diced dried apricots, and cut back the sugar. So it'd be like more fruit sweet from fruit. Let's see if I made, oh, hello from New York, Jill. I'll make sure I keep up with you guys. Debbie, hi, Debbie, snow in Ohio, 5.5 inches. Wow, in Ohio. All right, well, maybe it's moving this way. That's usually what that's what they say, that the weather in Ohio comes to Pennsylvania next. We've got Joe from salted butter or unsalted. For me. I like unsalted butter because then I can adjust the seasoning. And in baked goods, it's often called for unsalted. If all you have is salted, no big deal. Use that. But I have to say I can't remember the last time I bought salted butter. It's always unsalted. And also, here's a little factoid. Unsalted butter is often, you can check the expiration date, but because salt is a preservative, unsalted butter is often fresher. I mean, you can check the stats on, you can fact check me, but that is something I learned when I was writing one of my cookbooks. So, and also just to have control over the salt in your dish, I like to use unsalted. And it doesn't have to be a fancy salt. Like it can be an expensive European. It doesn't have to be. So see, I got these into like nice little dice. It makes the work easier when I'm making the crumble, the streusel. Frontier Co-op. We can tell you this is, thanks Frontier Co-op. Loving the vanilla. They can tell it's going to be delicious. It is. I've made it many, 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 many times. Okay, so I've got the butter all diced up. Now we've got a 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour. For the people out there that were asking, the woman who asked about gluten-free, you can use a gluten-free flour substitute, your favorite one. Anything that's a 1-to-1 ratio will work. Then we've got a 1/2 cup of brown sugar. Again, you can use light or dark brown sugar here. And a pinch of salt. So if you've got only, so it calls for a 1/4 teaspoon. I think I used 1/8. If you've only got salted butter, leave that salt out. So I'm using my hands. If you have a pastry cutter, use that. If you want to use 2 knives, do that. I've done that before. I'll use this. Usually it's 2 butter knives, but you just go in and you cut. You can use a fork. The reason you don't usually want to use your hands is because your hands are warm and you'll melt the butter. But because we are popping the streusel into the refrigerator alongside the French toast, it's going to get chilled again anyway. So I just go in with my hands to make quick work of it. And then yesterday I kind of got like lazy and put it in the fridge with some of the bigger chunks of butter still there. And then when I pulled the bag out of the refrigerator today to bake it, it was nice and cold. And in the bag, I just, I'll show you what I mean. But I squeezed the bag to get the rest of the butter into this fine streusel-like mixture. Let's see if we got anybody other questions. I'm going to make sure I keep up with you. Oh, I'm jealous about the snow. This is definitely snow food, right? You wake up, you light a fire. It's nice and quiet outside because the snow is coming down. The ground is white. And overnight French toast is in the oven. That's the best part. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I have this bag here, if you're wondering why it was sitting there. So I like to use a sturdy freezer bag. And you put the streusel in the fridge separately until you're ready to bake. And I'm doing this so it doesn't end up all over the floor, counter, floor. Spoon it in. See, I have these bigger pieces of butter. You'd rather have them broken up into pea size. So that would be like the more authentic, but since it's going in the fridge and I'm going to crumble it again, it's fine. But you see how that's more the size you're going for, kind of like pea size. right, into this bag. Now, if you're going to freeze this, if you're going to make this in advance and freeze it, another reason to use a freezer bag, and you absolutely can do that. You can freeze it for up to a month before you bake it, and you pull it from the freezer and thaw it overnight in the refrigerator. That would be the way to do this in advance, and that's 100% what I'm going to do with this batch. Angela, can you use almond milk and plant-based brown sugar and white sugar? Absolutely, 100% you can use almond milk. For this dish, you can use coconut milk. Yeah, if you're steering clear of dairy, yes. Now there's the butter situation, but you can substitute a plant-based butter. I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you could use coconut butter. I have not made a streusel with coconut, but I've made everything else with coconut, so I am pretty sure that would work as well if you're trying to avoid the dairy. If you want to make it without dairy, absolutely. So I'll show you what I did when my batch was in the fridge. I took it out, and you can see these bigger pieces of butter, and it was like all cold because it was in there from yesterday. And I just went like this to get the rest of the streusel job done. Less messy, was ready to roll. I was preheating the oven. Everything was coming together quickly. Let's see, Evie. I'm sorry, Evie, that I keep calling you Eve. Why don't you mix the bread and the custard before you put it in the oven? Why don't you mix the bread in the so we did mix the custard. We did add the custard to the bread. Now, when this goes into the refrigerator for 12 to 24 hours, the bread is slowly absorbing all this liquid. So I don't know if you can see this liquid in the pan. It won't be liquidy in 12 hours. The bread will have absorbed all the custard. So it's moist from the middle out. Super, super, super moist. I think that's what you mean. You don't toss it because you don't need to. The bread will absorb it as it sits, because remember, it's day old or it's been dried out in the oven. So it's definitely dry enough to absorb the custard. I feel like I missed another one. Oh, Sandy, I only know streusel recipes that are made by hands. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, well, they say you're not supposed to melt the butter with your hands, but because most hands are warm, except mine today seem to be a little cold for bottle opening. But yeah, because you don't want to melt the butter, you still want it to be a little pea-sized, because as it bakes, the butter separates from the brown sugar and creates the crunchy topping. And I'll show you what that looks like. So this gets covered. Did I have the plastic? Yeah, I did. So we just cover the top. And if you're going to freeze it, you would do a layer of plastic and a layer of foil. So this goes in the fridge. Again, 12 to 24 hours. This goes in the fridge separately. And when the oven is preheating and you're getting ready to bake, you pull the French toast part from the refrigerator 30 minutes before baking, so it and the pan aren't cold. And then you keep the streusel in the refrigerator until right before baking, so that also stays cold. So again, the butter and the sugar separate and create the crunchy. And I'll show you exactly what it looks like. What was the question there? I meant in the bowl first before putting it in the pan. Yes, that's why. And also remember, there's that whole brown sugar bottom layer, the butter. So we're building it. So we've got the brown sugar, we've got the bread. You pour over the custard, and here's what it looks like. So again, you preheat the oven to, it's still warm. You preheat the oven to 350. While the oven's preheating, you pull the French toast out of the refrigerator. So it's like 30 minutes on the counter, coming to closer to room temperature. Then you keep the streusel in the refrigerator. Right before baking, sprinkle the streusel from the bag over. And if you have any bigger pieces, do it while it's in the bag, it's still cold. Sprinkle it on top, and then bake for 30 to 40 minutes. Let me get a spoon. So this was, for me, I needed 35 minutes at 350 degrees. It was bubbling, and my house smells so good, the aroma. Let's see if you can, I'm gonna get all of my dishes out of the way. so you get a good view. Isn't this beautiful? Let's go up to the, look at that. You see the crunchy topping, the tender bread, so much flavor of the cinnamon and the vanilla. I'll cut into this. Oh, can you, wait, hang on. Can you hear the crunchy streusel? You ever seen those videos where it's like they scrape the sandwich first before they bite into it, so you can hear that it's crisp? And the bottom is also going to be kind of caramel-esque with the brown sugar butter bottom. Let's see if I can get you a view. Well, you'll definitely see the brown sugar butter in the pan. Let's get a plate. You can see I have everything right at my fingertips. Let's see, Jackie, hello from Illinois. Hello, Jackie. And Joe, so the liquid absorbs completely. I like to make it the night before and then transport to bake it. Yes, the liquid absorbs completely. So this, if you can see how it's, the bread has completely absorbed. Let's try to get an angle in here where you can see this side piece right here. See how it's moist like French toast? And yes, it's completely absorbed. And then get the brown sugar bottom. The brown sugar. There. That's the brown sugar bottom. You've got the crunchy streusel top. And a super moist. And here's the other thing too that I love. Can you see how the little pieces make these little, just, I don't know, it's just like a chunky French toast. It's almost like, and it's like, it's layered. You've got the layers of the cinnamon and the vanilla between the pieces. So that was kind of why one of you asked me about why I wouldn't just use sliced bread. And I just think this makes such a striking presentation. And when you cut in, around each cube is cinnamon and sugar and egg. If you can see that, it's like layers. See the 2 layers of so much flavor around each piece. This is still really warm. It smells really, really, really good in here. Let's see if I have any other questions to tackle. And again, it's only 30 minutes in the oven. So the prep work, it took me, what time is it? It took me a half an hour to do it chatting. And I did have everything laid out. But so 30 minutes prep, let's just say, pop it in the fridge, 30 minutes in the oven. This is, start to finish. It really is only about an hour, and it couldn't be easier. And we talked about the substitutions you could do: the gluten-free bread, gluten-free flour, the vanilla sugar. Someone's going to try. You have to let me know how that turns out. Reducing the sugar all over, just, in general. Plant-based, using almond and maybe coconut oil or plant-based butter for the streusel and the bottom. Sandy, I think it would work with substituting part of the bread with cubed apples. Oh, that would be delicious. That would be delicious. I would say part of the bread, absolutely, or just add. I have done this actually with applesauce. I've added applesauce to the egg mixture. So I added about a half a cup just to get like an apple fusion. But yeah, absolutely. Getting some cubed apples in there, I think that would be fabulous and ultra comforting, and stretch it a little bit too. And make sure that the bread stays moist. So apples, great idea. Pears would be great. Cranberries. The person asked me about, I can't remember who asked me about the savory, but a cranberry would be a nice tart, complementary tartness to go with all the sugar that's in here. We've got a cup of brown sugar and 3/4 cup of granulated, so we have a lot of sugar in here. So, a little tart, cranberry would be fabulous, some lemon zest. I mean, there are a million different ways. So this is the basic recipe. There are a million different ways you could do it. I was considering adding chocolate chips when I made this one time, and then I was like, no, too sweet. I think it would be too sweet. But for the chocolate lovers, folding in chocolate chips or chocolate chunks, semi-sweet would be pretty cool. I think that would be cool. Super sweet. Then it'd be dessert. Simply Organic. Can't wait to try it. Thank you so much. We got the cinnamon in there. We know. And we've got the vanilla in there. Chloe, what toppings pair well with this? Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything. Yes, the apple. I got the apple question. Chloe, I think toppings. So I think I love to serve this with yogurt, and like a Greek vanilla yogurt. And I think I like it that way because the yogurt's tangy and it kind of cuts the sweetness. But I have also known people to melt some vanilla ice cream and have that, drizzle that over top as like a sweeter or whipped cream. But I think it's so sweet that a little yogurt and some fresh berries on the side, and call it a day. It really needs little else, but I think that, or some blueberries on top, just something to counter the sweetness. That's, at least for me. And also, when you have those two elements going on, it kind of elevates the sweetness and it elevates the flavor of the fruit, whatever the fruit is. So if you have some sliced strawberries or mixed berries on the side, a little yogurt, I think they balance each other, while elevating the flavor of each individual element. That's what I typically do. And I mean, I do that with savory recipes as well. So give an example, something's, spicy, then there, you want to add a little bit of sweetness to counter it and to elevate it, which same is true of like baked goods like this. No, do we have any other questions? This came together so fast, and I left myself a lot of work to do. I'm sure we have more questions. Maybe you can share, since we're here as a group, and I can share it with the group, things that you've done that make your life easier during the holidays, things that you prep ahead, that you have found have been lifesavers during the holidays in this crazy time. I mean, I've already started wrapping presents so that it doesn't get down to the 11th hour. I wrapped 2 today, just right before we started. So anything, little thing that we can do that this is for me at least, to take the stress as we get closer, because it's inevitable. There's something always forgotten. I'm always in a hurry. I need to, I want to make sure I do this. So just little, if anybody has any time savers that they want to share, I will announce them. Chloe, can it be served at room temperature or is it best warm? I love it warm. I would let it sit 5 minutes when it comes out of the oven, but absolutely you can serve it room temperature, serve it within the hour, or serve it in an hour when it's room temperature. I wouldn't leave it out more than 2 hours just because of the eggs. I would refrigerate it after the 2 hours, and then you can eat it cold. Like, we've had it cold plenty of times. With ice cream, with like a scoop of vanilla ice cream. So yes, room temperature, but don't just leave it out. If you have guests coming over, I wouldn't leave it on the counter max 2 hours. You probably are familiar with the not to leave food between the temperatures of 40 and 140 for more than 2 hours, but I feel like that's a long time. If you're throwing a party and you pull this out of the oven, 2 hours is a pretty long time, then it's cool enough to put it in the refrigerator and nibble on it cold, or reheat it. So you could reheat this. I prefer in individual portions. Not a big fan of the microwave, but you can absolutely on a reheat setting, or you can put it in a small baking dish and pop it in a 275 to 300 degree oven for just until it's hot in the middle, and it'll come back crunchy. I wouldn't cover it, so to keep to the streusel will come back crunchy because it will soften as it absorbs into the bread as it sits in the refrigerator. So if you want to get that crunch back, heat it in a 300 degree oven without anything covering the surface. We've got all those. Let's see, any other questions? Substituting. Yep, we got the apples. Mel, she does a Christmas Eve chopathon. Oh, that's such a great idea, to cut, dice, and peel and prep ingredients for everything. That's so cool. Well, if you ever watched my show on Food Network, Quick Fix Meals, I was like the pre-prep chopper. I always had bags or containers of chopped ingredients. I always had sauces in my freezer, like lined up like library books. So yes, prepping ahead the chopping part, because the rest of it is so much easier. And then you can just, as I mentioned in the beginning, I love to entertain and I love to cook, but I don't like to be stuck in the kitchen when everybody else is doing something else. So if I can be playing a board game versus chopping, I'll have all the chopping done in advance so we can relax, and then you just take all the prepped ingredients that you did and make your life so much easier. In your case, that the chopathon that everybody did, that probably gets finished much quicker, and then you can just add it to the pot whenever you need it. So yeah, I love that idea. And again, that was the premise of my Food Network show was it was two things. It was prepping in advance, things like that, chopping, seasoning, having spice mixes and stuff like that, and then cooking once and eating twice. So double batch of chicken and then enjoying leftovers later in the week. Yeah, that's cool. That's a really good tip. And plus, it gets the whole family in the kitchen if everybody's home anyway. Get them a cutting board, get them a knife, and that's when the conversations flow. Jackie, yum, you're making me hungry. Yay. And it's actually, I don't know what time, well, it's all different times all over the world, but yeah, I think this is good anytime because it's good for a mid-afternoon snack. It's good for dessert. And obviously it's good for breakfast and brunch and family gatherings. Leisurely mornings, this comes out, the coffee pot goes on, the oven gets preheated, and everybody can sit down together and enjoy it, which, you know, it's kind of what the holidays are all about. Being with family and friends. There should be a name for, you know how there's Friendsgiving, there should be or maybe there is, and I don't know it yet, but I think, you know, something that when you spend these times with your friends as much as your family, equally warming to do that. Bring on the questions or bring on some more tips to share with all of us as we head into the busiest time of the year, at least for certain parts of the country. But I feel like tips are always welcome no matter what you celebrate. And we've got Robin says it looks absolutely delicious and easy. Thank you. She's definitely going to try it for Christmas morning. Thank you for the recipe. And you are welcome, Robin, with 2 B's. Yes, it's so funny because I make the same, like I think if I switched it up, my boys would disown me, but I make the same thing every Christmas morning. It's always breakfast burritos. It just is. So, but it's never enough because we wait, and by the time it's out, it's 11 o'clock in the morning. So this year, now I have this one that we made together. That's going to be in the freezer until Christmas Eve. Then I'll pull it out and I will bake it alongside the burritos. So then we have more food for the brunch. That's going to end up being. You know, I always think we're going to start sooner and then we don't. But yeah, so I'll have that one's going to go in the freezer for a couple weeks, and I'll have a more satisfying, balanced meal, sweet and savory for all of us to enjoy. Thank you, Mac. I think I can read that. I'm going to lean in. Mac, yes, thank you. Hello, thank you. Amazing. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. And Mel, how did the burrito tradition get started? Honestly, I'm confident the reason I started breakfast burritos was because I wanted something prepped in advance. No way I'm cooking Christmas morning. I want to sit there, I want to watch the presents be opened. If there's batteries that need to go in a thing or a game that needs to be unboxed, I wanted to always be a part of that. So I mean, one year I just made like the eggs and the bacon and the cheese, rolled them into tortillas, lined them up in a pan, covered them with cheese, and said goodbye until the next morning. And I've been doing it ever since. So it was basically to make my life easier Christmas morning. And that's how the tradition started. I mean, I think if I did anything different Christmas morning, they would think something was wrong. What happened to Mom? She didn't make the breakfast burritos. But that's why. It was just a prep ahead, time saver. And now I'll have 2 things because I have that one back there. Oh, I have this is my little Christmas guy that I bring out every Christmas. Chili's Diner every year. So that's another tradition. I'm not sure where I got him or her, but December 1st finds its way onto my kitchen counter. Yeah. So I love hearing other people's traditions too. Oh, look, popsicles, 25 cents. So this is because this is a diner in the North Pole, I think. I think that's what that's all about. Anyway, just, those cozy vibes. If there's any other questions for me, I am here. If not, you can always find me after this. So comments, I get the comments that I can respond to. If you share this link and it's on, I think people can watch it on Facebook and YouTube, I check those comments as well. And if you want to reach out to me directly, if you have something you think you don't want to put it in a comment section, Robin Miller Cooks is my website. and there's a contact page to reach me there, and I get an email with that. So even if it's not about this, if you're like, oh, by the way, can I have a recipe for this? My friends are coming in, and yeah, you can either check my website or you can write me from the contact page on my website, and I'll write you back. I'm very good about that. Usually write back definitely the same day, often within a couple of hours. And if you go to my website, note that I'm getting a new one. I agree, it's annoying. So bear with me. 2026, I've been on a wait list. So as soon as 2026 happens, they're going to take over and revamp the whole thing for me and make it user-friendly with a print feature and search and shopping lists and all that stuff that we all want, that my site doesn't have. Bobby says, what am I making today? Well, I just made this. And to be honest, I have soup that I made myself. I made a huge pot of vegetable soup for myself because I'm going to go do, in my town, there's a hayride that goes through a bunch of like a Christmas lights, and it's like a half an hour. Like it's a half an hour of lights on the back of a trailer. It's cold. So I figured, and I have a blanket all laid out and everything. So I figured I would do the Christmas lights hayride and then want soup. So I have prepped ahead my soup so I can come home. I'm positive I'm going to be cold. I did it last year, and I was like, it's not that cold today, but last year I was one of two people in the wagon because it was so cold. So, which I don't mind. It wasn't crowded, but yeah, I'll be prepped ahead with soup to warm me from the inside out. Yeah. So let me think. Anything else that I could share? Any tips or tricks? Looking around. I don't know. You've got me afterwards if you need me. You've got the recipe download from Craftsy. Also, be on the lookout. So I noticed one of my classes just it is new, so just hearty, satisfying, something like that, just dropped. So we've got that on Craftsy for new content, and then in January I'm doing couple more. Going to shoot 2 more classes as well as another one after that. So we've got 3 new classes coming, plus the short clips that I do for Craftsy. I mean, if you guys are going to end up on my website and are writing me anyway, give me some class ideas. Tell me what you're looking for. Tell me what you think we need. I'm always looking for inspiration. And if I hear from you, I'll pitch it and we'll hopefully make it happen. You know, just to hear from people what they actually need, not what I think they need. So that would be a great way to get what you want to have me make in this kitchen. I aim to please. Well, I think that's it. I have a brain full of tips if you need them, because I've made this multiple times. So I really appreciate you joining me. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season. You know where to find me if you, in the next few weeks, if you need, you know, other dishes, main dishes, side dishes. My son has asked me to do, I'm blanking, the pastry wrapped tenderloin, beef Wellington. That's what he wants me to make for Christmas. He said, is beef Wellington hard? Do you want to make that for Christmas? So that's what I'll be doing. I'll be researching beef Wellington and how to do that without messing it up. That'll be me. Any tips? If anybody has a beef Wellington that they love, that's what I'll be working on. So thanks so much for joining me. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season. And I really appreciate that you were here. And I really loved you checking in and letting me know where you're from. That warms my heart and I love it. And the questions I think are great too. So I'd love to be able to help when I can. So thanks again. Be well, be safe, and happy holidays.